All right. Good people, good people. Once again, the Rooted in Sports podcast is back. And as you can see, got a special guest on today. A familiar face, someone you've seen just recently, maybe a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
You got Swan Dunn and our special guest on the show today, Mr. Isaiah Kidd. Isaiah, what's going on, bro?
How you doing? How you doing? I'm just happy to be back on. I didn't know it'd be this soon, but I'm excited to be back on. Hey, you keep bringing me. I might get a nickname too. I see Kenneth got a
Hey,
nickname. You got a nickname. I gotta get a nickname too if I keep coming back on.
man, look, we're gonna have to give you some, bro, for real, man.
Yeah,
But real talk, man, you extremely clutch, man. So really appreciate you, man. Kind of a last minute thing, but always a pleasure to have you on, man. So I just wanted to publicly say what I already said privately, bro. So appreciate you coming on and stepping in, and this is gonna be fun today, man. We're gonna this is a heavy NBA episode. We're gonna be talking
yeah.
about pretty much all basketball. We're gonna cover all these first round NBA series. So yeah, guys, man, tune in, man. But if you ready, Isaiah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get into this handy intro that we've paid so much for.
Yep,
Okay. So I'm gonna
yep.
go on and hit that and then we're gonna get to it. All right, bro.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's go, let's go. Yes, sir. And just like that, we are back. We are back. And like I said, man, this is gonna be a real heavy NBA episode, man. The playoffs have started. We have the play-in games Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And
Mhm.
then the actual playoff game started yesterday and into today.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, we're gonna be real heavy on that. And so I'm gonna just jump right into it. But first, before we get to the first series that we're gonna cover, and we'll probably just go we'll probably do one Eastern Conference series and one Western Conference series. We'll just kind of jump back and forth.
No problem.
But before we get into that, I was curious, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I know you on the East Coast, man. What who's your squad? Who's your NBA team, you know?
So it's a big like thing with like so I'm from DC. I live in
Hmm.
DC. I'm not a Wizards fan. My favorite player, I feel like it's so difficult because like if I had to root for a team, it'll probably be the Lakers because like the Lakers are a
Hmm.
notable brand and so forth. I was a huge Kobe fan growing up.
Okay, okay.
And LeBron has been a huge, I like LeBron, but I like the Lakers prior to LeBron. But even with like I feel like with my age group in the NBA, like we're so attached to like certain players where like we don't necessarily have a favorite team. We have a favorite
Hmm.
player. And whenever they play, that's usually the team that people my age range root for. So it's a bit difficult, but I would say if I had to root for any team, it'll probably be the Lakers. But I have like my favorite players like that I've always had like Durant, Luca, LeBron,
Hmm.
and so forth.
Well, in that case, it was a real rough season for you then, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was
but
bad.
you know what? We didn't talked about the Lakers enough, so they are
Yeah,
not in the playoffs. Didn't even make the
not in the
play in. It's another
playoffs.
story for another day. You know what I'm saying? But also last week, me and Kenny, we kind of actually ran down like our regular season award winners, and
Okay.
I think that one of the awards that obviously it's the most prestigious award, and the award that's probably so many good options for that you can really argue for a few guys is MVP. So real
Mhm.
quick, I just wanted to ask you, man. Regular season is over. Who was your regular season MVP?
As you mentioned, the MVP. I think the MVP race and whole discussion is so crazy. And this year, I thought there were about probably 4 to 5 guys that you could have made a valid argument for. Nikola Jokic, who's the reigning league MVP, Joel Embiid. Those two bigs had a really compelling race last year. So they just continued this following year. They just continued their play. Obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo. You had Devin Booker, where that
Mm-hmm.
argument was like best player on best team. And then you had like a guy like Luka Doncic, where the Mavs home court advantage. He puts up these crazy numbers like 28, 6 and 8 or so and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really compelling race, like you said. If I had to pick a guy, I think it gets the criteria, the MVP thing. For me, it would probably be Giannis. I thought the late season stretch that the Bucks put together and some of those big time victories, like I'm thinking of the marquee matchup versus Philadelphia. Think of moments like that where I look at Giannis. He's been the best player on what I think the best team, and could be to argue the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Definitely still a championship contender.
Yeah, definitely. And they finished 51-31. They had Milwaukee. They won the chip, like you said. They won the chip. They had a lot of injuries and a lot of stuff going on early on. But they stayed afloat. They got back healthy, and they're back in the thick of things. So for me, it probably would have been Giannis. I thought they were, I think with Giannis, he's at the point where like he's arguably the best player in basketball. So usually we know this MVP thing. Like the best player don't always win MVP, but that probably would have been my vote this year.
Okay. I was just pretty curious with that, man. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into today's topics. Like I said, we're gonna be going through with our NBA first round playoff preview. And just before we get into that, I just want to let everyone know. First of all, thank everyone that's watching via YouTube or Facebook. If you'd like to comment and get a live reaction from us, please go ahead and comment via the YouTube stream. So once again, if you want live interaction with us, comment via the YouTube stream. But with that being said, man, we're going to go ahead and get into these playoff series. And the first one that I want to jump into was the Miami Heat against the Atlanta Hawks. First, number 1 seed versus number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think most analysts kind of see this as a mismatch. Miami, for a good majority of the season, has kind of been a number 1 seed. I know it kind of switched around a little bit, but at least for the last stretch of the season, Miami's kind of held on to that number 1 seed. They seem to have finally gotten healthy, and they got all the guys back. Everybody's playing together. Even Victor Oladipo kind of seemed to have came back toward the end of the season. Seems like he's coming around. So what I want to ask first, from Atlanta's perspective, what do you think they need to do to pull this upset off? Or who's some players, obviously Trae Young, but who's some other guys that you think that they really need to step their game up in this series in order for them to really pull off this upset?
Well, for Atlanta, it's they're an interesting story because obviously they're led by Trae Young. Trae Young coming off another phenomenal season. He led the league in total points and total assists. So
he's very underrated, man.
Very under, he's
and even not myself, I have to admit, I didn't see this from him coming out of Oklahoma. I thought he was small. I thought he was going to get manhandled. I got to admit, I didn't see this from him.
Yeah, and he's the face of a franchise, and he's probably one of the best operators and ball handlers in terms of the pick and roll. So I like Atlanta. Like you mentioned, Trae Young. In order for them to go, they go as far as he goes. So he's going to have a phenomenal series. But Atlanta, I think it first starts defensively. Last year, they had no trouble with scoring the basketball. Like I said, when Trae Young is your leader offensively and your floor general, offensively, things are going to come apart because he's so dominant and so really, really, really good at just using the pick and roll, whether it's facilitating the roll guy, facilitating other offense, other guys.
And his range is ridiculous, so you can't go under it. You can't go under the screen.
As soon as he walks into the arena, you have to guard him. He brings that much attention. Absolutely. So offensively, that's not the problem. Where Atlanta turned the corner last year was their defense. Nate McMillan brought more of a defensive mindset than Coach Lloyd last year, and that's really where the season turned, and they had the Eastern Conference Finals appearance. They got better defensively and able to get critical stops. So I think in order for them to pull off this upset right here versus Miami, where Miami, I think they're very susceptible to an upset like this of this magnitude. But
Okay.
I'm thinking Atlanta defensively have to clamp down. They have to get a little bit better and turn the corner again, like they did last year defensively. Now I'm thinking of guys. Now I love my guys like Trae Young and Luka Doncic because they're so good with the ball in their hands, and they
same draft traded for each other.
Yeah, right. They create so much problems and they bring on so much attention to themselves where they're able to be really, really good playmakers. But there comes a certain point in time where like the ball's gonna get out of their hands. They're gonna be off the floor, and some offense gotta be created from somewhere. So I'm thinking of guys like Kevin Huerter. He emerged onto the scene.
Gallinari.
I'm thinking of Bojan Bogdanovic. I really like him. I think a guy like Bogdanovic, he is the typical foreign player where he can shoot it.
Yep.
He can put the ball on the deck. He's really good offensively. So if they can get some production, some 15 to 20 points from him, when Trae Young is not just on the ball, I think that will be crucial to their guard play and them creating some type of offense. So I gave you a little bit of both ends where obviously defensively they gotta get better and get stops, situational stops. But then offensively, you need other playmakers on the ball, on the floor when Trae Young either doesn't have the ball or he's off the floor. And I think a guy like John Collins, max money.
Yeah.
You think of the max contract. Some people may be up and down. I get this thing with John Collins where like some people are really high on him, and they look at his athleticism and his skill. But then I
like him. I think he's a very athletic stretch forward, and I think he rebounds well for his size. What I'm saying as well. I think he's a very underrated guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't see a perennial all-star, but I think he's a very underrated guy, and I think he works well with Trae Young and what he can do for that team.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking of those are the three names really that come up to me where in terms of creating more offense outside of Trae Young, Bogdanovic off the bench, Kevin Huerter, obviously Gallinari, but then I mentioned John Collins. Maybe if Collins can give them some type of post presence, Miami's they're tough defensively. And Bam is
as
really
always.
Good, as always, but they're small. So you can pick apart those certain matchups for John Collins to eat a little bit.
And see, that's where I think this injury to Clint Capella really hurts Atlanta, because Miami, for the most part, they do play small. They really only have the one true big in Bam Adebayo, and he's not really a center. He's about 6'9", I believe. He's not really a true center, by definition, but he's the only real true big that they play. And so I think this is a series where Clint Capella, although he isn't a huge offensive option, I think this is a series where he could easily average, maybe 15 and 15, you know what I'm saying? And he can definitely make his presence felt, you know what I'm saying? Somewhat offensively, but even more so on the defensive end, being able to block shots and being a rim runner. Offensive rebounding, getting a lot of second chance attempts for Atlanta. Obviously, and I know they played game one. They actually played game one a little earlier today. Obviously, Trae Young is going to have to do much better than, I believe, 1 for 12, which he went today.
1 for 12, 8 points, 0 for 7 from the 3.
And they came out and just flat out got smacked. Okay, Miami pretty much dominated that game start to finish. And so, I think the loss of Clint Capella does hurt them. Like you said, and you mentioned a few names between Kevin Huerter and Bogdanovic and Gallinari. Another name too is Hunter as well. I think he has to. I think that they could really use him stepping up and knocking down the open shots. You know what I'm saying? As you mentioned, I think they do need to improve defensively. But honestly, for me, last year they were a bit of an anomaly because
I agree.
I was surprised that they beat the Knicks last year, and
Okay.
then I was just downright floored that they beat the Sixers. But I
Yeah.
don't know if that was, and I hate to take credit from them because I mean a win's a win. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
But with them beating Philadelphia, I don't know if it was more so them just playing their best ball or vice Philadelphia kind of self imploding.
I can tell you this, Atlanta, and I agree. When I said Atlanta, like you asked me, hey, how can they win the series defensively?
Mm-hmm.
They got to turn it around, similar to last year. And I do think Atlanta, they did catch lightning in like a bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like
because they came back down to earth this year. They fought to be in a play-in, you know what I'm saying? And they won their playing games, but they came back down to earth this year.
But I think I last year I did pick the Knicks to beat the Hawks. I thought the Knicks defensively would be able to get some stops. They didn't. So we already know what happened there. And Philadelphia, as you said, it wasn't necessary. And let me not even take anything from Trae Young because he had a phenomenal series. He had a phenomenal playoff run. But Philadelphia did self-implode. They did. Philadelphia self-imploded. We saw like we're probably gonna get to it very soon, talking about the Sixers, but like the Doc Rivers, the constant hype, and he's had so much talent on his teams over the. I mean, hell, since Boston, he's had so much talent, and he's underachieved. And I think that's what
even going back to Orlando. Not to cut you off, but do you know do you know that Doc Rivers is the only coach to have given up 3-1 leads in playoff series?
Absolutely.
The only coach, and no other coach has done it more than once. He's done it 3 times.
He's done it 3 times.
And I would hate to say this, but I don't get me wrong. I do like him as a coach. Don't get me wrong. I think he is a great coach, but I dare say I will say that I do think he's a little bit overrated as a head coach.
Don't feel like that's an hot take. You mentioned it. A lot of people don't know about the Orlando days, but he had a prime Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill. So like,
and they were up 3-1. I forgot who it was against, but they were up 3-1 in the series in Orlando.
They were up 3-1 versus the Pistons. They were up
against the Pistons. Yep.
Against the Pistons. So it dates all the way back to there. But Doc, I feel like he's overrated as a coach, but we'll get to that. I think we have more. I can't wait for the Doc.
We gonna get to him in Philly in a little while
for sure. But I think, as to your point, Philadelphia imploded. So your granular point is, hey, Atlanta last year, great playoff run, great story, but a lot of sizzle and no substance. Where it was an anomaly. That's what you're saying. So I'm not mad at that. I can see how you say that. I kind of agree to certain points where I thought Philadelphia self-imploded in that series, and that led to Atlanta winning. And they won in 7 games, so it wasn't like it wasn't like they just ran Philadelphia off the floor. No, they won in 7 games, and it was a tightly contested series. So I agree.
So, well, obviously, like I said, they played game 1. Atlanta. Other than obviously them, what I'm saying, stepping up their defense or whatnot, other than Trae Young actually coming to play. I mean, how do you think they can kind of turn it around for game 2? Because honestly, I just think that they're pretty overmatched. And then if you can, go ahead and give your prediction. I'm pretty sure we're both going to go with Miami here. I think it's pretty safe to say. I think so. So how many games do you see? Can you see Atlanta getting a game here?
I can see Atlanta stealing a game probably at home. I do think they're overmatched. And you're talking in terms of the game today, Miami was really hot.
Duncan Robinson could not miss.
Could not miss.
He could not miss.
And when you and I know it may sound like simple or baseline or elementary, but it's so prevalent in our game today. If one team is hitting threes at a great rate, and the opposing team can't shoot the ball into an ocean, it's going to be a blowout because because teams
That's the way the
nowadays
game
get
has
up,
evolved.
get up
Mm.
right. If the game has evolved, and teams nowadays they get so many shots up and so many threes up. So if they're knocking them down at a pretty efficient rate, then that you're bound to get blown off the floor, and that's what happened today. Duncan Robinson. Somebody I just saw somebody that Duncan Robinson
That's
was on fire.
that's my wife. She was I was kind of watching it. She was catching it with me, and she was just like,
Yeah.
"Man, he is making all his shots." You know,
he couldn't miss. So I think Atlanta. I'm going to say Miami in 5. I think Atlanta. I think they are overmatched. They are. I think Miami. I thought Miami was very susceptible to getting bounced in the first round, depending on their matchup.
On the matchup, okay.
Yeah, but Atlanta, like you said, they struggled all year long. They fought themselves into the play-in, and it just seems like the little engine that could, where like they've plateaued and they've reached their ceiling this year.
Yeah, same for me, man. I'm going Miami in 5.
Okay.
I think Trae Young gets them a game. I think one of these games, Trae Young goes for maybe 40 and 15 assists or something, and probably at home. Maybe game 3, game 4 is probably at home. But I think Trae Young, he does get them a game. But beyond that, I mean, they're just pretty much outmatched. Then the injury to Clint Capella doesn't help them at all. Miami, you can argue Miami is the deepest team top to bottom in the playoffs. You can make an argument.
Yeah.
And Atlanta just, 1 through 12, or even when they shorten their lineup 1 through 8 or 1 through 9, they're just not going to be able to match up to these Miami Heat basketball teams. So yeah, I guess me and him both in agreement here. Miami in 5. We're gonna go ahead and get over to the Western Conference now, and we're gonna do that 1-8 matchup, which features the Phoenix Suns against the New Orleans Pelicans. Obviously, we've seen New Orleans kind of get hot at the right time. They ended up winning both of their play-in games, and they're a team that's really playing well, like I said, at the right moment. Brandon Ingram is continuing to mature. I'm sure. I bet the Lakers wish they have him now.
Right. No, really.
But Brandon Ingram's continuing to mature. You seen him make the move for CJ McCollum during the season, and he's really paying dividends for him. He had a really great game the other night. And they're going against the team who pretty much from start of the season was the best team in the NBA. I have to personally give the Phoenix Suns props because I kind of thought they're another team that I thought was a bit of an anomaly. But to see them come back and follow it up and have an even better record this year and just be just that well-oiled machine, even without Chris Paul for a substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, I think like we're looking at yet another mismatch, but I mean, we've seen crazier things. So here we are in a 7-game series, man. What do you think it would take for these New Orleans Pelicans to possibly pull off an upset against what was the best team in the league?
Well, before I get to that, I second that with you. Phoenix, after the finals loss, I thought they would be back. I thought they had the ingredients. I thought Monty Williams had a really good year as a coach. I think he continued to evolve. But we kind of saw this emergence from Phoenix starting in the bubble.
Won the last 7 games. Won all 7 games. They didn't make the playoffs that year, but they won all
8 games.
Oh, 8 games, yeah.
8 games, yeah. They went 8-0 in the bubble, and it didn't really they weren't playing for anything because they were so far out of the race. But we kind of saw the makings of this team where they had a nice young nucleus with Devin Booker. I'm thinking of DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, and so forth. Campaign came alive, and then you added Chris Paul to the mix. So it just came together and formulated really well in Phoenix. Now them setting a franchise record in wins and going 64-18, didn't really see that happening. But I thought they'd be I thought they would be a contender out west. Now in terms of New Orleans, it's a mismatch.
It is.
I think Phoenix. I'm gonna just give my prediction. I'm not gonna hide it. I'm not gonna
Right.
try to keep you guessing. Phoenix will probably win this series in 4 games. I think
Clean sweep. Okay.
I think it'll be a sweep. Um, could New Orleans still win? Maybe, but I'm going to say Phoenix in 4. New Orleans to me, Willie. I must say, shout out to Willie Green. Willie Green had the way how he was able to turn this season around so much, and a lot of just inner rumblings in New Orleans with the whole Zion and his weight.
Yeah,
And
the way he got them past that, man. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit on Zion in a second, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just the organization and like not being on the same page with its most prized possession. That could be a lot, and that could have New Orleans could have easily laid
Just tanked it.
down
Yeah.
and tanked it and said, we'll be back next year. Zion be back healthy. We'll get him on the floor, and that'll be that. But no, the Pelicans had a better record after the All-Star break, post All-Star break, than the Lakers. The Pelicans.
Now wait a minute now, because that's not saying much, okay?
I know.
What the Lakers only won, I think they only won 5 games post All-Star break. So
that's not saying much. That's not saying much, but it did show. Like I saw 2 different teams that was in a similar boat, and one was going one direction, and the other was going the other direction. And so
Agreed.
and there were more, the Lakers, LeBron, AD, like, we don't need to get into that whole thing. But New Orleans, they fought. I think Brandon Ingram. I always liked him. I'm not sure.
So did I.
I always liked Brandon Ingram. I thought the Kevin Durant comparisons, I'm not gonna say were a bit much. Like, I get it. Like, he was a skilled wing guy who was 6'10",
long, wiry,
long arms, springy. So I get the comparisons. Obviously, he's not Kevin Durant, but like, he's 60, he's like 50% of that. And I like Brandon Ingram. So I'm not New Orleans. I feel like it's similar to Atlanta. Like, they fought themselves to get into the play-in. And now they're going up against them 1 seed and arguably the best team in basketball throughout the whole year. So I think this is where the buck comes to a stop, and New Orleans probably loses in 4 games.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go New Orleans in 4 as well.
Yeah. Well, Phoenix in 4.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go Phoenix in 4 as well. I wouldn't be surprised though if New Orleans made a game of some of these games, just because I'm a big component of teams playing their best ball at the right time. Okay. And I think right now, New Orleans is playing probably their best ball of the season. Yeah, they've kind of hit their stride. CJ McCollum has really become a real true leader for them, a true veteran voice that I'm not sure they necessarily had. Valanciunas is paying dividends for him, in which I always thought Valanciunas has been a little bit underrated. He has a fairly solid post game for a big. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And he's a guy who's really big. He knows how to throw his weight around. He's a pretty solid rebounder. He brings some toughness to him. Jackson Hayes comes off the bench. He runs the floor like a deer. He's going to go and try to block everything. He's going to go try to finish everything at the rim. He brings a lot of energy. Herb Jones is a really solid defender. I think he'll see a lot of time. You'll probably see him on Devin Booker, I think. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum kind of carrying most of the offensive load. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 or maybe 3 of these 4 games are close. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, Phoenix is a well-oiled machine, Mm-hmm. Between Chris Paul and the leadership that he's brought. And I think that he has helped in the maturation of Devin Booker so much. I think you've really seen Devin Booker go from just a scorer. I think early on, I think he was just a really good scorer, but now I really consider Devin Booker to be a franchise player. I think he is the franchise. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I say that Devin Booker is probably Phoenix's most valuable player, but I think Chris Paul is Phoenix's most important player.
Okay.
And I think you really kind of seen Devin Booker just grow and mature kind of coincided with them picking up Chris Paul. Obviously, Kenny's guy, DeAndre Ayton, he loves him some DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton had another, really solid season. I think he learned a lot in that finals last year. And I say that because, and for whatever reason, I don't know, but a lot of times you've seen Money Williams insisting on allowing DeAndre Ayton to guard Giannis one-on-one.
Yep.
And that plan didn't necessarily work out for him. But I think that he learned from it. I think that those are some growing pains that he needed to go through. Mm-hmm. And I think he did, and he learned from it, and he's grew. He had a few injury issues himself, but since he's been back, another solid season for him. And yeah, man, I mean, Phoenix is, well-oiled machine, man. Cam Johnson's, Mikal Bridges, who was my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, yeah, they're a well-oiled machine, man. Even JaVale McGee has came over and gave them a little championship pedigree. So, well-oiled machine, man. What I did want to say, though,
yeah,
and I'll let you chime in on this. But what I did want to say,
absolutely,
Zion Williamson. When he came out of Duke, I was a huge fan of his. I really was. He's really starting to disappoint me, and furthermore, he's really starting to get on my last fucking nerves. And, and I have to say it like that. And here's why I say that, man. First of all, I don't know who's in his ear or if anyone is in his ear, but why hasn't anyone gotten him a personal trainer and B, a personal chef? Because I know he's been off his feet. I know he had the foot injury or whatnot. Yeah. But there's no reason for him to look as big as he does. You know what I'm saying? They could have had this kid on the bike, row machine, swimming, something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's no reason for him to have missed this entire season. It was no reason for that. And then now all of a sudden, what's really killing me is that now he's showing all these videos of him on social media, of him doing all these wild, crazy dunks. And my thing is, what good is that right now? How is that helping the New Orleans Pelicans franchise right now as they were fighting for their playoff life and now on into the playoffs? How does that help them right now? You know what I'm saying? But,
absolutely.
I mean, I don't know, man. I just feel like I don't know who's in his ear. I don't know if he has the right people really talking to him. There's been rumors going around that he never wanted to be in New Orleans, nor does he want to be there now. There's been rumors saying that he wanted to possibly have been drafted by the Knicks, or he just wants to get out of there. Yeah, and I don't understand that, man. What do you think about this situation?
So similar to you and a lot of other people, I was high on Zion. I thought, and I think I try not to let the weight issue get blur what I saw for him when he was on the court, because when he was on the court, he was pretty productive. He was
extremely efficient. Yeah, extremely
efficient. Obviously,
and he had the highest field goal percentage in the league.
Right. Obviously, he still has some tools to tweak out and so forth, and some things to get better at. But he was productive. This whole weight issue is unacceptable. I think it's unacceptable whether or not you want to be in New Orleans or not. And from my personal preference, he doesn't want to be in New Orleans. It just doesn't. His actions and what has transpired so far since he's been in the NBA, it has always told me that he wanted a big market, and it's either LA, New York, Chicago. He wants a big market, and even the All-Star weekend last year, where they were asking him about potentially, how would he? No, it was his first visit to MSG. And they asked him,
I remember.
How did it feel? How did it feel playing at Madison Square Garden? And he basically gave an answer hey, I would, it felt great. He basically clamoring hey, I would like to play here a lot. Yeah. I want to be a Knick. So him wanting to be in a big market, I think this desire, it's there for him. The weight, like I said, the weight thing is unacceptable. Unacceptable on all levels. And my thing is, you posting these videos of you dunking and doing the 360 dunks, maybe get a Pels 15 minutes a night. Start maybe what good is it if you are posting these videos of you dunking? If you can do that and I know basketball, you got to work yourself back into shape and so forth, and get into basketball shape. Because it's one thing. It's one thing to play basketball. It's a whole nother thing to be in basketball shape.
Yes,
and
sir.
obviously, you got to get in shape. But he can give the Pelicans 10 to 15 minutes. Nothing
Productive
crazy.
minutes, yeah.
Yeah, 10 to 15 productive minutes.
But like I said, man, I mean, he's taking his foot injury and he's kind of ran with it, man. I mean,
Yeah,
he
he's
looks.
using a tactic. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, bro, he looks well over 300, bro. Even the other day when he did the little 360 windmill,
Yeah.
he looks well over 300, and it can't be healthy for a body to keep going up and coming down with the amount of force that he plays with that amount of weight, man. All the stopping and starting, something's gonna give. We seen a man in college blow out a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Next time it's gonna be his knee. Or is his ankle, is his Achilles or something? You know what I'm saying?
Literally,
but you know,
no, I was gonna say scientifically, and that was the whole thing about this whole Zion hooray. And I had a cause for pause because I'm like, okay, I'm not like the biggest science guy, but I know this. Scientifically, when you are heavy up top and you're not, and Zion, he's about 6'5", 6'6", maybe 6'7".
Yeah, I think I was going to say. I think they list him at 6'7".
They list him at 6'7", but he probably 6'5", 6'6", right? But
in that Barkley mode, in that Charles Barkley mode, that was my comparison. I thought he was a more athletic Charles Barkley.
Right on, same thing here. When you have that weight up top, and you're like you said, you're jumping as high as he can jump, and you're coming down. That's not healthy for the body. That's just not how the body operates. And that's like, you can't have that type of constant movement and not expect for something to tear or pop out, whether it's your shoe or whether it's your ankle. Like you can't expect nothing not to happen. So
exactly,
the weight is definitely an issue, and that was an issue coming out of Duke. Him maintaining his weight, and when he got drafted by New Orleans. Hey, I never been to New Orleans, but I hear that there's some great.
You know what? I haven't either, man. But I
hear the
heard
food
great things.
Is delicious. So
yeah,
he's probably having the time of his life every night during dinner time, and like he's big. He's as big as his house. So he gotta he gotta some way somehow someone in his camp. I don't care if he's trying to get out of New Orleans. You got to maintain your weight, but he's using a tactic that a lot of these stars are using, which is, like Kawhi. Look at Kawhi's situation when he got out of San Antonio. It was the whole getting a second opinion off his injury and basically forcing his way out of town and just holding San Antonio, and now in this situation, Zion holding the Pelicans hostage.
But now we're in that day and age where stars have that kind of power. You know what I'm saying? Stars are able to force their way out of contracts or out of situations. Look at what James Harden has done twice. Look at what Ben Simmons did. That guys are able to force their way out of situations. Even in football, looking at Antonio Brown and stars are finding ways to force themselves out of situations that they won't want to be in. But I think we both agree, Phoenix clean sweep here, man. Like I said, I think New Orleans will make it a few competitive games, but Phoenix clean sweep here, man. So moving on, we're gonna go back over to the Eastern Conference in what I think is the most interesting series in the playoffs. And they played game one earlier today. Really, really, really exciting game. And that would be the Boston Celtics against the Brooklyn Nets. Like I said, they played earlier today. The Celtics pulled it out 115-114 at the buzzer there. Kind of a helter-skelter play, but Jason Tatum doing what Jason Tatum does. You know what I'm saying? It was a phenomenal game, back and forth. Kyrie was Kyrie. This is going to be a really, really, really interesting series. I have 7 games. I have 7 games for this series. I think, honestly, and just looking at today's game, I honestly think that Brooklyn had this game won. I think
Yes.
Brooklyn should have won this game. And I think, it's hard to say, you can learn from a loss or take solace in a loss. But I think for Brooklyn, they have to look at it like they really didn't play their best game. Their best player, Kevin Durant, didn't play his best game. You did have Kyrie do what Kyrie does. You know what I'm saying? And they really had this game won. As a matter of fact, I believe they were up 4 with less than a minute left.
Yeah.
They had this game won. And, obviously Boston kept fighting. You know what I'm saying? They're a real gritty team. They were the number 1 defensive team in the league. So they're gonna keep on fighting and keep on coming. Man, I'm gonna just throw it to you, man. What is your take on this series, man? And what do you think it'll take for each team to really pull out the win in this series? Before you get your prediction, don't get your prediction yet.
I won't. I got you. I know. I got you. With this series, on my own podcast, a lot of people, and it comes from me. Like, I now go to college, right? Mm-hmm. And I now just know a bunch of people from Boston.
Oh, and wow, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people get on me because they think they label me as like this Celtics hater, and I kid you not.
Is that true? Is that? It's not. Wait, hold on, wait. It's coming together. Laker fan. It's coming together, brother. I see you. I pick up what you're putting down.
No. And I try to tell people I'm not a Celtics hater. I'm not. I think the Celtics. I give them this.
Okay.
Outside of Phoenix this year, once Boston got their health situation together, they started to find a rhythm because early in the season they struggled with obviously COVID. COVID was running rampant through the league like the first month and a half. And then Boston had some injuries and so forth. So the chemistry was a bit off. And Ime Udoka, first year head coach, so he's trying to get into the groove and rhythm
out of that Popovich, coaching tree. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So with Boston, I will give them this. Once they got healthy and once they found their chemistry, they were probably outside of Phoenix. They were the most consistent team in the league. Once after January and on, outside of Phoenix, Boston has probably been the most consistent and the best team in basketball, especially out in the Eastern Conference. So I will give Boston that. And defensively,
they had, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were 22-5. If I'm not mistaken, they had the best record post All-Star break.
22-5, best record since post All-Star break. And the thing that had got them back to being the 2 seed was defensively. Defensively, I thought the last couple years under Brad Stevens, they had lost their defensive their defensive identity and toughness.
Now let me say this though. I love Brad Stevens.
No.
Like, I don't know if maybe the upper brass in the organization maybe kind of forced them up. They kind of forced them out of the coaching seat, but still wanted them to be a part of the organization. But I love Brad Stevens, and I think he should still be a head coach in this league.
I agree. I like Brad Stevens too, but I thought Brad is a guy where you look at when he took over the job in Boston. Mm-hmm. They were supposed to be in a rebuilding situation when he took over.
Yeah.
He took the group of guys that they had already and turned them into a playoff team. They missed a playoff once. And once that second year under Brad, they've been a playoff. They have been a perennial playoff team ever since and made a couple Eastern Conference Finals appearances.
Yep. So took the Cavs to 7 and that game went down to the wire.
Yeah, that game went down to the wire. They took the Cavs to 7. Obviously they had the Isaiah Thomas, couple years and run. So I like Brad Stevens too, but I do think it came to a point where he has a system, and according to the personnel that Boston had coming into Boston, he was able to fit those group of guys into his system. But now I felt that with the emergence of Jason Tatum, with the emergence of Jaylen Brown, with Marcus Smart coming together, being a better a more fluent offensive player, I had
Yeah.
thought Boston, their personnel and their top guys had outgrew Brad Stevens, and that's okay. That's okay. I thought Brad Stevens had reached his peak and his plateau as a coach. I still think he's a really good coach. I just question whether or not he's a championship level coach. And I'm not saying Ime Udoka is, but we'll see. Ime Udoka, he comes from a really good, a rich tree
Coaching
and a
tree.
very probably tree. So we'll see what happens. I think Udoka is a candidate for coach of the year, but that was my whole thing with Brad Stevens and the Celtics. I thought they had plateaued and his coaching style had no longer fit the criteria of their personnel, and it was time to move on. Now I'm glad they kept in the front office because I think Brad's a smart guy. I think he's a smart basketball guy.
I think it's one of those situations where, and granted, I once again, like I said, I think he's a great coach. I think it's just more so one of those situations where he kind of maybe lost the ear of the team. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't necessarily listening to him, wasn't following behind him anymore. And sometimes that happens. And sometimes it happens to great coaches. It just happens from time to time. You know what I'm saying? I do still think he would be a great head coach candidate. With that being said, Ime Udoka is another great coach of the year candidate. And like you mentioned, man, I mean, post All-Star break, it was like, the Celtics, something just clicked for them. You know what I'm saying? They stepped it up defensively. I also want to say that I think that Jason Tatum's game has matured so much. And I say that from a standpoint that, Jason Tatum, he's always been a great scorer. But sometimes, and we know that, what I'm saying, Kobe Bryant was one of his idols. Sometimes I think he almost tried to mirror his game after Kobe a little too much, because you would see him taking just some of the toughest shots. You know what I'm saying? And granted, he's a good exactly. And granted, he's a good scorer. He's a good shooter. He makes contested shots, but it was almost, for a while, it was almost like he was consistently trying to take the tougher shot. And then I don't even know, even if you remember earlier this season, Marcus Smart was kind of voicing his displeasure with it. You know what I'm saying? He was kind of saying, hey, we're not, when they were struggling earlier this season, he was saying like, hey, we're not necessarily moving the ball around. You know what I'm saying? It's staying stagnant, and then we're taking tough shots. I think that was more so directed at Jason Tatum. But I think just as the season has gone on, you've seen Jason Tatum really kind of mature and really kind of get a good grasp of the offense and really kind of figure out and master the offense and figure out spaces to where he can be the most successful and get good shots. And now you're seeing him be a far more efficient scorer. And then you couple that with Jaylen Brown and him continuing to improve on his game every year. They got Al Horford. They brought Al Horford back, who I think was a really big piece for them, another veteran presence from them, and a guy that at this stage in his career, they don't need him to be the Al Horford that he was. They don't need him to be the all-star that he was, a few years back. But they just need him to be a consistent big body, knock down open jump shots, be tough, give them leadership. Robert Williams, who's out for them, who's out for them right now, was a big part of them defensively. He is, and he was a big part of them defensively. He was averaging 10 points, 9 rebounds, and a little over 2 blocks a game. He was a real defensive anchor for them. So, I think that you've really seen them improve with the maturation of Jason Tatum. And then I think for the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, obviously we know the two guys that they have offensively, you can argue are 2 of the top 5, maybe top 10 scorers, like pure scorers in the history of this game. You know what I'm saying? Those guys can get their shots at will. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's fun as a basketball fan to finally see these two guys together consistently on the court at the same time, consistently. And I think for them, the big key for them is, can they get enough stops? They don't have to be a great defensive team, but can they find themselves somewhere middle of the pack defensively? Can they just get 1 or 2 stops when they need it? And you've seen that today. They were up 4, less than a minute left. Couldn't get the one stop that they needed.
The one stop that they needed. Yep.
And that's my thing with them. You know what I'm saying? Offensively, I mean, with those two guys, it's gonna come, and then they're gonna open up the floor. They got a slew of shooters from uh, Curry to Patty Mills to Dragic. They got a slew of shooters. They still got Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge deep on the bench. Those guys aren't even touching the floor right now. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, they have enough offensively. But for me, for that team, would they be able to get the stops that they need? Because this team can be a first round exit, or they can be the NBA champions. You know what I'm saying? Their window is large. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But with that being said, man, I'm gonna ask you, man. I'm gonna put you on the spot, bro. I know this is a really tough series, probably a really tough decision. We both said 7 games. Well, who is your winner in that game 7?
I'm gonna go Brooklyn. I'm gonna go with the Brooklyn Nets in 7. I think the Celtics, and it's really a coin flip. I really do this in terms of like the whole, when I make a pick, I'm gonna stand on it. But I think if there's any pick in terms of a series, this really can go either way. And that's why we have it going 7 games. Because when you have a series, typically when you have a series going 7 games, usually the teams are evenly matched, and that 7th game, it go either way. I'm gonna go with the Brooklyn Nets. I think we mentioned it with Boston. Their defense, they were number one defensive team in basketball. I think Robert Williams is their X factor. I think he is definitely their X factor.
If he can make it back in this series.
If he can make it back in this series. I know the Celtics are probably aiming for game 3, game 4. So we'll see further on that. I've been so huge on Jason Tatum since coming out of Duke. Before the draft, I was telling people, I was like, this guy Jason Tatum, he's probably the best player in this draft. And he's gonna come out. I thought he was a guy that had the skill set offensively to average 20 points per game as a rookie.
Out of college, Out
of college. I thought
agree.
He had NBA ready body. I thought he had the represent skill sets where finishing, shooting the ball, whether that's,
and it was almost like Coach K kind of, I hate to say slowed him down, but kind of slowed him down. You know what I'm saying? Because
he had to play, the tools were there. He had to play within a confined space, and offensively at Duke. So he really couldn't, he didn't average 25 points per game or lead the nation in scoring, which he probably could have, but he didn't. So I like the elements of the Celtics. Like, in terms of a basketball junkie and what you like to see out of a team, the Celtics do that. Great ball movement, great coaching. They got really, they can switch on a lot. Like on pick and rolls, they're lethal.
Because they kind of play small, they can kind of just switch everything. You know what I'm saying? And a guy like Marcus Smart can guard everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody. And that's why I mentioned Robert Williams. You know, he's the 5-man, but he's a 5-man that's versatile and quick enough to have the lateral quickness to, switch on to a guard if he has to, but also have the athleticism and the jumping ability to stay on a big. So that's what makes them potent defensively. But I'm gonna take Brooklyn. I think it comes down. Kevin Durant, I think, is the best player in this series. Yeah. I think Durant, he had a bad game today. And this is why I'm going to take Brooklyn. Brooklyn did not play their best game today. And if you're a Nets fan, I'm not going to say you should be like optimistic and jolly, because obviously you want to win that game. That was a very winnable game. That could have been a game that you stole in Boston. But Durant started off the game 1 for 7. He made some shots late down the stretch. But Brooklyn offensively, it was the Kyrie Irving show. Kyrie had 39. And he was just going berserk.
And then he was letting the fans know about it.
He was letting the fans know that I'm here. Exactly. Now we can bank. I can put my money on it. You can bank on Kevin Durant. Durant won't go start.
Oh yeah. Game 2, at least 30.
At least 30. He won't do that again. So with that, I got 2 of the game's best closers. I'll take them 7-game series, the Brooklyn Nets. I think they get enough stops. And hopefully Ben Simmons, maybe they can spot him some minutes if he's available.
Yeah. I agree with you, man. Crazy
Okay.
enough, I agree with you. I'm going Brooklyn Nets in 7. At the end of the day, I think that Brooklyn has the best 2 players in this series. I say KD 1. I'm gonna say Kyrie 2. You know what I'm saying? I think they have the 2 best players in this series.
Okay.
And coming down to a game 7, first round, I know Kevin Durant. I know the Nets lost in the game 7 last year to Milwaukee. I just don't see them allowing that to happen again, especially with Kevin Durant having that second guy, a healthy second guy. Because I think even last year, if James Harden is 70-75%, they win that series. Even last year, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So coming into this series here, I mean, I just don't see them allowing Boston to beat them in a game 7. You know what I'm saying? I just see a Kyrie or a KD just taking over. I think you'll see and he's right. Drummond does have to play better.
Yes.
This could be a big series for him where he can really kind of impose his will, especially with Robert Williams being out. He can really kind of dominate on the backboard because he's a phenomenal rebounder, and that could really help them. But I was just saying, I think Kevin Durant and Kyrie in a game 7, I mean, they're just going to go out there and they'll get it done. And I also think when they get to that game 7, you'll see some of the experienced guys really pay dividends, i.e. a Patty Mills or a Goran Dragic, you know what I'm saying? Especially a Patty Mills, though, a guy who is a champion, a guy who's been in that situation multiple times, and that's what they got him for. I think last year, although he's been hurt this year, last year, Joe Harris, if you remember, in that Milwaukee series, he couldn't hit the sand from the beach. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that it'll be opposite this series. I think that's why they went out and got an experienced guy like a Patty Mills. I think that's why they got a Goran Dragic. You know what I'm saying? I got some of these guys who have some playoff experience, who have been to finals, and in Patty Mills' case have won finals. And I just think that come that game 7, they'll pay dividends, man. So we both agree there. We both got the Brooklyn Nets in 7. But hey, guys, definitely tune into that series because, like I said, game 7, that's probably this was the hardest series I think for me to pick.
It was.
And this will probably be one of the more entertaining series in these playoffs. And speaking of entertaining series, this next series, I was actually talking to a friend about, and I told him, I said, don't be surprised if Minnesota goes into Memphis and wins game 1. And right on cue, what did they do? Went into Memphis and won game 1. I'm gonna jump in since I already started. I'm gonna go ahead and tackle this one. The 2-7 matchup in the Western Conference, Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota, another team who starting to play their best ball at the right time toward the end of the season. Really had a really, really, really solid season themselves.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards is really coming into his own. He's really becoming, I think in a few years, we're going to put that word superstar in front of his name. I really think I'm almost willing to say that in a couple years, we'll be saying that the Minnesota Timberwolves are Anthony Edwards' team and not, you know what I'm saying, Karl Anthony Towns. That's how highly I think of Anthony Edwards right now. But with that being said, man, I mean, this is a real tough team. They've added Pat Beverly, and for all he's a West Side Chicago guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I tell people, you can almost kind of tell what part or what side of Chicago players are from by how they play. Like the offensive guys, you know, like the Jabari Parker, the Derrick Rose, even going all the way back, Tim Hardaway. They're from the South Side. I'm from the South Side. We're offensive guys. You know what I'm saying? We going to get our numbers. The Patrick Beverleys, the Tony Allens, West Side guys. Okay, they excuse my language, kids, but they're in your shit. Okay.
Yeah.
That the moment you step across that line, They in your shit. They're irritants.
Yeah.
That's who they are. Patrick Beverley embodies that, and I think the team has kind of followed behind him and embodied him, and I think he's instilled a little bit of toughness into them. I really, 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 really like this team. I really think they're heading in the right direction. As far as Memphis goes, man, I think it's kind of crazy because even though I kind of predicted Minnesota going in there and winning that game one, it's kind of crazy to me because when you look at this Memphis team and you see how well they played without
Ja Morant.
Without Ja Morant, I believe 20-5 was it, or 20-2? I'm sorry, 20-3, something like that. Without Ja Morant.
Yes.
And then to see how well they played, with him, it might come as a bit of a surprise that they even lost game one. A lot of guys probably looked at this series and said, okay, we got this young Minnesota team. Okay, they're a nice, cute story, but this Memphis team has been coming. You know what I'm saying? They've improved every year. My coach of the year this year, Taylor Jenkins.
Okay.
This is his third year there. He became coach. It coincided with the same year they drafted Ja Morant. And you've seen their wins in a win total increase each year. I think it went from 33 the first year to 38 the second year, and then they went over 50 games this year.
Yep.
So you really seen them just take that leap. Ja Morant, who was my pick for most improved player this year, you've really seen his game take the leap. You really start to see him really grow and mature. I've gave this take on this show before. I think that Ja Morant is everything that people thought or hoped that Russell Westbrook would be. And I say that because both of those guys, especially Russ in his prime, freakishly athletic. But you can see right now, even in year 3, you can see how Ja Morant has already learned how to play with pace. Like he knows when to get up and down and when to attack and finish and do his thing. But then he knows also, okay, man, this is a really important possession for us. Let me slow it down. Let me go ahead and get my teammates involved. Let me get my guys involved. This is a real important possession here. Let me make sure we get a good shot. You know what I'm saying? And they're a good Memphis is a good young team. Got a lot of talent around them with Desmond Bane. I've always liked Jaren Jackson Jr. even when he was at Michigan State. You know what I'm saying? And he's a real 3-and-D guy. I believe he led the league in blocks this year. And then he's a stretch 4. Sometimes he plays a 5, but he's a stretch 4 who can really, really step out on the floor. Steven Adams has brought some toughness to him. They got a lot of young guys, a lot of young talent there. Actually, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe Steven Adams might be their oldest player.
He's their oldest guy. And he's not even 30.
That's what I was going to say. I think he's only like 28, 29. Yeah. So that's insane. That shows you just how young a team this is. So you're really looking at 2 young teams here. Minnesota did take game 1. However, for my money, man, I'm not going. I want to say this is a 7-game series. That's how confident and that's how much I really like this Minnesota team. I can't forget about D'Angelo Russell either.
Yes.
That's how much I really like this Minnesota team. But you know what? I'm gonna toss it over to you before I give my prediction, man. What do you think about this series?
So when I came on the first time on on live stream, me and Kenneth, we talked about
Memphis. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Questioning whether or not are they legit. And I thought they were legit. I thought they were, in terms of legit, I meant like they can win a round or 2 in the postseason, pending on the matchup, right? And we talked about how, the Ja Morant, I told Kenneth this on the pod. I was like, hey, I think Ja Morant is going to probably be the best mid-major guard to ever play in the NBA.
Sorry, I have to cut you off on that, right? Real quick.
Go ahead.
So, I don't know if you seen when I came back the next episode because I remembered you saying that. And then I came back the next episode because when you said that, it hit me. I said, man, I was thinking, I said, damn, he might be right.
Yeah.
But hold on. Then I started
Okay.
thinking, and I had to throw out a few names. I started thinking. I said, first of all, I said, well, wait a minute. Because, say what you want about him, but Paul George went to Fresno State. And I said, okay, at this point in time in their careers, I'm going to probably take Paul George. Not saying that Ja Morant can't get there, but I'd probably take Paul George.
I said guard.
Okay. I got you. Hold on, I got you.
Paul George, okay.
Then I was thinking again, and I said, wait a minute. Damian Lillard went to Weber State. Mm-hmm. And I said, I can't put him above Damian Lillard. Not right now. I know Lillard missed this season. I can't put him above Damian Lillard. And then, as I was saying that, it hit me. The best guard to come from a mid-major, Stephen Curry. Steph Curry, Davidson, and I'm not sure Ja is going to be able to top that.
Right.
You're talking about a guy back-to-back MVPs, 3 titles, still working, resume still being written. Top 50 player, best shooter ever, period. Resume is still being built, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, I just had to cut you off because I remember you saying that, and I was thinking to myself, like, man, what in the world? So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I no. I think he'll have an argument for being, and obviously, I'm not saying it right now. I'm not saying he's better than Dame. No. But I think at the end of the day, when everything is all written up, and I think he have a valid argument. I think he could have an argument. But no,
right. Fair assessment. Yeah, I'm not sure if he'll catch Steph or Dame Lillard personally, but fair assessment.
Okay. Well, I think Dame is more reachable and attainable. But I came on here and I basically talked about how Memphis, they have a really good, nice young core. Taylor Jenkins have done a great job with this team. Yeah. And people say like, Minnesota's a young team. And I'm like, well, I know Memphis, they were in the playoffs last year and they won 56 games this year, but they're a young team too. They're fairly young too. They don't have a guy that's over 30. So, or 28 at 29 at that case, right? At that fact. So Memphis is really, really young too. So we're getting 2 young, exciting teams. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first of many playoff matchups between certain guys like Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards. With Memphis, they should win this series. I'm not going to give my prediction yet. I'm going to wait till I give my synopsis of Minnesota. But Memphis is the favorite, and they should be, rightfully so. They had a great regular season. I like guys like Dillon Brooks. I remember coming on last time, I talked about Desmond Bane being a really good three-point shooter. Emergence and the subtle improvement of Jarrett Jackson Jr. I talked about, obviously, Dillon Brooks. I really like Dillon Brooks in his game and his attitude.
Hopefully he gets back soon, man. He's been out for a while. Hopefully he gets back soon.
Yeah, hopefully he can get back. So I'm looking at Memphis. They have what it takes to win a round or to win this round. But
not a true championship contender, though, in your eyes.
Not a championship contender, but I think they were legit, but not a team that I can see in the finals. And I said that, and on the pod the previous time I came back and I was like, who is their legitimate second option? Because I think
that's a good question.
And in a 7-game series, and it may not come back to bite them in this series if they're fortunate enough to make it to the second round. But in a 7-game series where the defense gets better, the players get better, the coaches get better, Ja Morant is amazing. But what happens when the ball
they're gonna isolate them? Yeah.
And the opposing coach has schemed up well, and you got to put the ball in somebody else's hand. Who's that legitimate go-to second option? And that I don't know, and that's why I'm very hesitant on Memphis in terms of saying they're gonna go like to the conference finals or the finals, because I think they lack that legitimate second option. Now I'm looking at Minnesota. I think Minnesota. I like Malik Beasley. I think he had a really good.
And he came off the bench last night. Really, I think he had 23 off the bench.
Yeah, he is a scorer.
Kind
He
of
can
an
put
instant
the
offense
ball.
guy. Yeah.
He can put the ball in instant offense. He can put the ball in the bucket. So I like Malik Beasley. Obviously, we talked about Cat. I think Anthony Edwards is amazing. First, I think he's really hilarious.
Yeah. You catch him post game, boy. Yes, sir.
I think he's very much a showman.
And the NBA needs that. The NBA needs that from its young stars. They're gonna eat that up. Yeah. And then he's a shining beacon in a city like Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That, you know what I'm saying, they need that. You know what I'm saying? It's a small market. They need that. They just changed ownership and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? A-Rod's part owner of them. You know what I'm saying? They need that.
Yeah. So, and I think Ant brings that excitement with his, not only his personality and so forth, but his play style. Like, he's a big physical two guard who can, he's improved his jump shot since coming out of Georgia. That was my biggest thing with him coming out of Georgia. I was like, really athletic. He has a nice NBA size body, and I don't have no problem with him, like, in terms of finishing. How was the consistent jump shot? And that jump shot has gotten better and better and better over time. And now it looks so fluent. He had step backs. He's hitting counter moves and combinations and hitting like. So I love the emergence of
his confidence. His confidence is sky high.
And it should
you know what I'm saying? You can't tell. First of all, he's not afraid of anyone. You can't tell him that he couldn't go out there on any given night and score 40, 50 points. In the regular season, he had a game in the regular season where he only scored 49. He said, "What they asked him, what did you think about your game?" He said, "Man, I'm pissed off I didn't get 50." You know what I'm saying? Like that type of attitude from a young guy. I think he's 20. He's not even 21 yet.
In terms of his confidence and swagger, I'm not saying he's these guys or he's going to be these guys, but it gives me the same type of feeling of like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, where like they have this confidence and this swagger about themselves when they play. Where like, and I'm not saying Anthony Edwards is going to be them, but I get it. The mixture of his personality, his swagger, the confidence that we're mentioning, he kind of gives me that same. I see that same type of air about himself, and I like it. I think Cat. Ja Morant is probably the best player in this series, right?
Okay,
if you name the next 2, 3
after that, 2 to 3, I can agree. Yeah,
they're on Minnesota's team.
You're probably gonna go Cat, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell. Yeah, I agree.
So that and that could play a big part. Because in these type of games, I like that. What I do is I write out the 10 best players. Like it don't matter what sport. It can be for like every year. I do it for the Super Bowl. I write out the 10 best players, 10 best players, and at each series I write out probably not in basketball, not the 10, but maybe like the 6 best players in the series. Right. And like I said, after Ja Morant, 2, 3, 4, 5 may all belong to Minnesota. So like this is going to be a very compelling series. I think Minnesota has a puncher. I think they got a great shot to win this series.
Yeah, I can
agree. People were saying, I heard some people say Memphis in 5. I think this series is a 7-game series, and I think it's a 7-game series, and I think Memphis squeaks out of it, but it's a very entertaining, young, thrilling 7-game series, and we have a lot to look forward to with this young core, this young nucleus of both guys. And also, before I let you do your prediction, I wanted this because we talked about New Orleans and Zion. Okay. And I know Ja Morant and Zion were in the same draft. And I've been saying this since the bubble. I've been saying this. I think Memphis has done a better job with shaping and constructing their roster around the skill sets of Ja Morant than the New Orleans Pelicans have with Zion Williamson. And this is why I think year by year by year, the Grizzlies have improved and Ja Morant has improved. I think that's why. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why. Because they have constructed their roster accordingly to Ja Morant's their best players skill set, unlike the Pelicans.
Well, I think here's my thing with that though. See, I
Mhm.
believe a lot of that. I think some of that has to do with Zion and his own work ethic and
And that could
him
be true.
wanting to improve, wanting to stay in shape. I think also another
Can
part of
two
that
things be true?
is yeah,
Can
yeah,
two, I was because I was gonna say I don't. I'm my bad to interrupt you, but I think two things could be true. I think Zion and his lack of commitment to being in New Orleans and his lack of commitment to making sure his body stays intact. And I
mhm,
also think he can be better with that. But I also think like the inept ability of the Pelicans front office just to do right by their team. Now
agreed,
they've cleaned it
agreed.
up. So, but go ahead.
And I also think that they were put in two totally different situations, and I say that because Ja Morant being drafted and going to Memphis, they didn't have any star or any other person with star potential. So it was pretty much gonna be him or bust. So we need to do whatever we can to make sure that this kid is successful.
Right.
Whereas Vice with New Orleans, um, when Zion got there, they had Brandon Ingram. So they was I feel like New Orleans was still in that mindset of okay, we're gonna see if we really hit the jackpot here.
Yeah.
But if not, we still got a kid here in Brandon Ingram who we really feel good about. So
Yeah.
I think whereas in Memphis it was the moment he got there, it was the Ja Morant show. I think that in New Orleans it was kind of like even if Zion is who we think he is, you know what I'm saying? He's still gonna have Brandon Ingram right there. Because even at their best, I still envision them a 1-2 punch. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I still think even at their best, if Zion's getting 27 a game, Brandon Ingram is gonna be getting 25, 26 a
Mhm.
game, even at their best. And now they've added CJ McCollum. So and I'm getting way off topic here, but it'll be interesting
Good.
to see next year
Mhm.
when Zion gets back, how does that dynamic work? Who's going to take the step back? Because one of those guys are going to have to kind of step back and be a little bit unselfish. But
Mhm.
that being said, I'm gonna go Memphis in 6 games.
Okay.
I think that this will be a really entertaining series.
Yeah.
I think that all 6 games will be close. I think all 6 games will probably, or the next 5 games, excuse me. I think the next 5 games will probably be, one possession games, maybe 3 to 5 point difference in the game. But the reason I'm gonna go with Memphis is because I think that they are a slightly better defensive team. I think they're a little and although Patrick Beverly has instilled some toughness into Minnesota, I
Yeah.
think that Memphis is still a slightly tougher team. And although, like you said, 1 through 4, if we count down the top 4 players in this series, 2, 3, and 4 are probably going to be from Minnesota. I think that right now, Ja Morant is far and away the best player in this series. And I think he's just going to impose his will. The team's going to impose their will. You're going to see Bane
Yeah.
and Jaren Jackson and some of those guys. You're going to see
Mhm.
them start to knock down shots. And
Yeah.
I think they'll get those first game jitters kind of out the way. And I think as the series goes on, you'll see them kind of impose their will. As I talked about Ja down the stretch of games,
Mhm.
really being calm and cool and collected and being able to make the right play for his team, get his team good shots, and being mature in those situations. I think that's what's going to make the difference in this series. And yeah, man, I'm gonna go Memphis in 6.
Got it.
But yet again, another really good series. If you're looking for some young talent, if you're looking for a series with a lot of young talent,
This is the
looking at
series.
some of the future, if you want to see the future of the NBA,
Mhm.
this might be the series for you, man. All right, so we're gonna move on, man, and I'm gonna take this next series away. Okay, I'm definitely gonna jump into this, so forgive me. Okay,
Got it.
this
I
next
know what's coming.
series is Milwaukee against my Chicago Bulls. All right,
Yes.
and so I tell guys all the time, man. I tell people all the time, man. I am a realist. I am. Although I love my Chicago teams, I am a realist. And so, in being so, I'm just going to put it like this, man. My Bulls are overmatched. Point blank, period. End of story.
Yep.
They are overmatched. I think I know, especially for myself, I think personally, I think that we exceeded expectations this year. I think although we faltered toward the end of the season, we faltered a lot. We ended up getting a 6th seed. Even with that being said, I still think we exceeded expectations this year. I also think that for the Bulls, injuries really, really kind of hurt them and hurt what they had going on early in the season because Caruso missed a ton of time, and then they still don't have Lonzo Ball back. And Lonzo Ball, I don't think people realized how important Lonzo Ball is to the Bulls team until you see the team without him. And the thing that I picked up on early on is that, Lonzo Ball was really the only true point guard that the Bulls have.
Yep.
So he was that guy who was going to be able to create offense for us, going to be able to get guys where they need to be. We didn't necessarily need him scoring 20, 25 points a game.
Yeah.
But just being that steady ball handler down the stretch, that steady decision maker for us down the stretch.
Being a good facilitator.
And then on the other end, being a really sound defensive player, because I think people kind of underestimate Lonzo Ball as a defender. I think he's a really good defensive player.
Absolutely.
And he has the size for it, 6'7", long and wiry. So I think those injuries really didn't do us too good. I also think one of the important things that happened to the Bulls down the stretch was that people kind of picked up on, DeMar DeRozan and seeing how he was just, having his way, you know what I'm saying? For me, at one point, he was my MVP. I'm sorry, call me a homer.
Look, he was.
At one point, he was my MVP.
Yeah.
But I think teams started to what you started to see as the season progressed is that teams just sent the double team at him. And so they were going to make other guys win the game. You know what I'm saying? And Zach LaVine, I love him, but Zach LaVine was another one who battled injuries. He's due to have surgery in the offseason anyway. He's been playing. He has some knee issues he's been playing through, but he's due to have surgery in the offseason. And then beyond those two, I mean, we just really don't have another guy who we can really depend on. Yeah. I think the trade for Vucevic, I think Vucevic has been a bit of a disappointment for us.
Yeah.
I say that because I think Vucevic doesn't know his role with the Bulls. I don't think he understands his role with this team. I don't think he knows where he fits in offensively, playing alongside DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. Funny enough, DeRozan and Vucevic were on the same team in college. They both played for USC. Funny enough, I know that's Kenny's squad. So just a quick shout out to USC. But I don't think Vucevic really knows his way offensively. You know what I'm saying? And then I think for a guy who averages over 10, 11 rebounds, I think he gets pushed around on the block
too much.
I mean, he and it's sad because we ended up picking up Tristan Thompson a little later in the season, but I think it's sad because Vucevic for majority of the season was really our only true big, and just to see him battle and just get pushed around like that, it like there are sometimes I'm just watching the game and I'm just like, Vooch, like, come on, bro, like, man up, bro, come on, like, you got to give a better effort defensively than that. You got to be tougher than that. You got to be stronger than that, bro. We need you to be a force on the inside, and I don't know. I just think that trade has been a bit of a disappointment for us. I think the Bulls kind of seeing Kobe White possibly taking a next step for him, but he hasn't quite been that. I know he was hurt, early in the season, but he hasn't quite been everything that they hoped he would be. So, yeah, I mean, I still think we overachieved, but just seeing the way we just kind of faltered down the stretch was alarming to me. And then we talk about these Milwaukee Bucks, defending champions. Pretty much bringing everybody back. We know what they are. We know what Giannis is.
Yep.
I think even in the game tonight, in game one between Milwaukee and Chicago, and I got to give my Bulls credit. You know what I'm saying? They were getting smacked early and they fought back. They even took the lead late in the third quarter. They fought all the way back, took the lead late in the third quarter. They did end up losing the game. But I think you've seen in this series in game one of this series, I think you seen that Milwaukee was just too big, too physical for this Bulls team. You know what I'm saying? Giannis was pretty much having his way. Any rebound, he had a double-double in the first half. He had 17 and 11 at halftime against the Bulls. You see him down there having his way, getting whatever rebound he want. Bobby Portis was down. Bobby Portis is kind of a stretch four. Bobby Portis was down there snagging rebounds. Same with Brook Lopez. And that's what I think, honestly, just being a realist, that's what I think is going to happen this entire series. I think you're really going to see the better team impose their will, impose their physicality.
Yes.
You're going to see the best player in this series, and you can argue the best player in the world.
Yep.
You're going to see him impose his will and get whatever he wants, because I don't think the Bulls have anyone, nor do they have any scheme or any strategy to really slow him down. And I mean, I'll give you, how many games or how long I see the series going a little later. But yeah, I just honestly, and I love my Bulls, but this is a complete mismatch for me, man.
I second everything you say. About Chicago, I'm not gonna do what you did, because obviously this is your squad, so you've watched more Bulls basketball. But going into the season, I thought this Chicago team was going to be a playoff team. I like the acquisition of DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball. The Lonzo Ball,
another guy in DeRozan that I'm sure the Lakers wish they had.
Wow, another shot.
And should have had. So blame LeBron. Yeah, they should have had him.
Accountability on LeBron. And you're right. With Lonzo Ball, a former Laker, Lonzo, I thought he was a really crucial loss, because looking at your roster, like Ayo Dosunmu, not really a point guard. Kobe White, not really the point guard that's gonna get other guys involved per se.
Same with Caruso, not really a facilitator like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not gonna really be that facilitator and that playmaker that you need, or that DeMar and Zach LaVine and Vucevic need. So I thought Lonzo perfectly fit that. So that loss right there in itself was huge. Also, what I did notice about Chicago all throughout this year, Chicago versus basically like the top teams in the Eastern Conference.
We can't beat a good in the league, not just the Eastern Conference, the league. We can't beat a good team.
You can't beat the good teams. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't really pay attention to regular season series matchups. Like, I've seen teams win a season series and then play that same team and get beat by it. So I don't really take that into account. But with the Bulls, it was just so evident where they played against Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, Miami.
Philadelphia, bro. Joel Embiid, and just another testament to, kind of Joel Embiid kills us, bro. Kills us.
It's crazy. And that's where I was like, Chicago, it was a nice story. I'm glad to see it's I think there's certain teams in the league where it's like the league it's better when certain teams are really good. Like in football, I usually say like when the Cowboys or when the Raiders, when those type of teams, those blue blood franchises are pretty good, the league is better. And I feel like the Bulls,
Chicago, the Knicks, the Lakers, Celtics,
like Chicago, the league is better when the Bulls are good, and because it's Chicago. Chicago's one of the bigger markets that the league have. Mm-hmm. So like it's a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm. But I look at tonight's game, and like you mentioned with DeMar DeRozan, he struggled. He shot 6 for 25. Vucevic shot 9 for 27. LaVine shot.
Vucevic shouldn't even get that many shots. There's no reason he should have that many shot attempts.
He shot 10 3-pointers. And I'm just looking at the overall field goal percentages from 3 and from just the floor. You shot 18% from 3 and 32% from the field. That's just not going to be enough to beat any competent playoff team, let alone
the defending champions. Mm-hmm.
So that's what you have there with Chicago. So I think you guys are overmatched. You are a realist, and I'm glad about that. With Milwaukee, I'm just I'm not gonna say this is gonna be like just a cruise, but I see this as a 5-game series. Chicago probably gets one just out of dignity. They get one in Chicago, maybe. But I'm thinking Milwaukee, they're gonna close this bad boy up in the gentleman's sweep. They get ready for the winner of the Nets and Celtics series, and
It's
that's
gonna
where
be a
I think,
series.
yeah, and that's where I think I'm not gonna say they not paying you guys no mind, but like they're going to impose their will. Giannis is going to have his way freely. And I think Milwaukee, they'll win this series in 5 games. Like I said, Chicago, I think they had a good season. Started off the season really well on a high note. But
Mm-hmm.
as the season continued, you played against contenders, important, critical, vital pieces of your team got hurt. So injuries happen, they come and go, whatever. But Chicago, good season, but I think they have met their match. And this is where the buck stops.
Literally.
No, literally.
No, I agree, man, and just out of respect and love for my team, I am gonna give them a game.
Mhm.
I'll give them game 3 at home. I wish I could go to a game, man. Fucking work, but yeah, I'm gonna give them game 3 at home. Yeah, Milwaukee, like we just said, man, they definitely overmatched the Bulls. Milwaukee in 5 in this series, man, and
Yeah.
they're probably just just fine tuning things and looking forward to that winner of the Brooklyn Nets and Boston series, which we both, as we said, will probably go 7 games. So yeah, enough about my Bulls, man. I don't wanna cry, in front of the people. So enough about my Bulls, man. We're gonna head back out west.
Yep.
And I believe this is a 3-6 matchup out west here, and we're gonna get into Dallas and Utah.
Oh no, this
Um,
is 4-5.
I'm sorry, this is 4 or 5. Excuse me. Dallas and Utah.
Mhm.
Um, well, we seen them play game 1 yesterday. Obviously, I think the biggest storyline in this series
Yeah.
is the absence of Luka Doncic.
Mhm.
Didn't play game 1, and according to
Unlike game 2.
yeah, I was just going to say, according to
Yeah.
reports, he's unlikely for game 2, and that's big for Dallas. I don't think they would like to go into a 2-0 hole to this Utah team. But that being said, man, what's your take on this? Before you get your prediction, man, what is your take on this Dallas Utah team? And I'll tell you what, in particular, what do you think Dallas needs to do? You know what I'm saying, to maybe steal a game 2 before Luka can possibly get back, if he can get back.
Okay, I'm gonna answer that question first.
Okay.
With Dallas, in order for them to split at home, it starts with it's gonna have to start with Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie. I think they this is nothing new to them. They have been playing games without Luka Doncic. They played 17 games without Luka, but this is a
Okay.
bit different. This is a bit different. And Dinwiddie and Brunson, Dinwiddie played okay. Brunson played okay. They're gonna have
I
to.
thought I actually thought Jalen Brunson played pretty well personally.
Oh,
I thought he
okay.
played pretty
I,
well.
I I thought he played.
Dinwiddie did struggle a little bit. I
Yeah,
think I forgot what he ended up with, but he did kind of struggle a
I
little
think like
bit.
22.
Yeah, but it was a hard fought 22.
Yeah.
But I personally I thought Jalen Brunson played pretty well. Maybe because I like him, I'm a fan, but I thought he played pretty well. I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
no. I like Brunson. But it starts with those guys. They got to pick up the load in terms of playmaking and ball handling duties.
Hmm.
With no Luka. With this Dallas team, it's very difficult because Luka makes up so much of the offense. So when you subtract him and take him away, they turn into they don't look like a 4 seed, basically. Like
Okay.
they just don't look like a 4 seed, a team with home court advantage, because what Luka brings just offensively is just so valuable to what the Mavericks do and how they play and how they operate. And when you lose a guy that magnitude, like, you got to move guys up a slot. So
Yeah,
Brunson, he's not the second option. He's gonna be the first option. He's gonna be the primary ball handler.
indeed.
Dinwiddie, he was coming off the bench. and he's a starter.
Mhm.
So that's the thing with Dallas. Also, I'm looking at defensively now. Defensively, you gotta be able to limit Utah shooting threes.
Because that's been one of the things they've been. I think not this year. I think last year they actually
Last year.
led the league in like 3-point percentage or something like that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's one of their things.
And that's their thing, and that's what they're gonna do. I saw that they put Vinny Smith on Donovan Mitchell, and they didn't.
Okay.
They put the other two guards, Dinwiddie and Brunson, on Bogdanovich and so forth.
Mhm.
So
And I
they're
think that's probably best for them.
that's probably
Although Donovan went off in the second half,
yeah.
but
You got to live with that, you know.
yeah,
But it seems like that's what they're going to do defensively. But if they can find a way to limit the free throw shooting of Utah and most importantly the 3-point shooting of Utah, I think that's how Dallas can probably steal a game and get some other production. Maybe Kleba has a big game from
yeah.
three. Maybe he can knock down some threes and so forth. Also think like I thought yesterday's game was a pretty good range in terms of scoring. Like you got to be able to keep it in the low 90s.
Against this Utah team. Okay,
With this Utah team, with you missing your ultimate best
Luka.
player,
Hmm.
you know. With Utah, they're so. Like a couple weeks ago, I had posted a couple things on my social media about the relationship between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell,
Yeah,
and like they try, like they and we don't. It doesn't get talked about a lot in the NBA world because
because they're in Utah.
it's in
'Cause they're
Utah,
Utah. Hmm.
but boy, they do not. It's quite apparent they don't
Yeah.
really like each other.
And I think it probably stems back to that whole
The
COVID
COVID,
situation, with Rudy just
yeah,
being careless,
yes.
and yeah.
And just not and Rudy, I think in terms of Rudy Gobert, he gets slighted and disrespected a lot, and I think I'm like, don't you guys realize he's literally the reason why Utah defensively is halfway decent?
Yeah.
Because and this is the problem with Utah, and this is why I think they have a defined ceiling. Now depending on the status of Luka, they may be able to get through this round, but this is where their ceiling kind of plateaus, where they don't have athletic wings. They have Donovan Mitchell, who's
Yeah.
their one athletic wing, but you look at guys like Bogdanovich, like they just don't have athletic wings or athletic enough wings
Even
to
Ingles, when he was there, Ingles
even
he
Ingles.
he barely getting over a phone book.
Right. He can barely jump. So like you can't. I think in the playoffs defensively, that's going to be that could potentially be a problem.
Mhm.
Luckily you don't have to face Luka, or you don't have to face him for a couple of games.
Yeah, maybe they can steal a game or two.
Yeah,
Steal both these games.
both of the games. But I think with Utah, we gotta start showing Rudy Gobert some more love. I mean, I think at times does he get exploited a bit defensively in terms of when teams
Guarding the pick and rolls
and spread the floor out and he got to go and contest the corner 3-point shot? Yeah,
mhm.
okay, but Utah defensively wouldn't be half as good without Rudy Gobert defensively. So we gotta start putting a little bit more respect on Rudy Gobert name. But with Donovan Mitchell, I think it's really critical that they win this series because he there's some rumors clamoring that like he maybe a
Yeah.
little unhappy and so forth.
Mhm.
But Utah, a first round series win would do them wonders. Because you have to imagine if they were to just
Lou
hey, Gobert or
then
Donovan,
there
they probably won't be Donovan, but it'd probably be Gobert. He'd be the fall guy.
and there's been rumors also about the coach Quinn Snyder possibly going and coaching your Lakers, So I mean,
Yeah,
I do think this is a really important series for them.
yeah,
I really kind of feel bad for the Mavericks because
me too.
I think a healthy Luka Doncic, I think they win this series. You know what I'm saying?
Me too.
I probably say maybe even in 5 games. You know what I'm saying? And I say that because I think I look at Utah and I see them as a team that's just waiting to implode. You know,
Mhm.
I think over the last year and the last couple years, I think we've kind of seen them. I think we've seen them reach their peak. I
Yep.
don't think they'll ever be better than what they are or what they were last year. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Donovan Mitchell, I do think is a phenomenal player. I think that he definitely ups his game in the playoffs.
Yep.
But I mean, beyond that, it's kind of similar to what you said about Memphis. Like, who is really their number two? Who
Yep.
is really that other guy that they can depend on and put the ball in his hands and say, "Hey, man, I need you to, give me a couple buckets or create for, give me a little 5 or 6 minute spell here." You know what I'm saying? They don't really have that guy like that. I know you were talking about Rudy Gobert, and I'll say this, you can probably count me as one of those guys who underestimates him or don't think too much of him. But you make a valid point. I mean, we talk about a guy here who is consistently toward the top of the league in rebounds and in block shots,
Mhm.
and he's always a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, and he is the defensive anchor. The defense starts and stops with him.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess we can't take that for granted. For me, though, I think that's one of the issues with, like you mentioned, if they play a team, hypothetically, they play on a team, say like a Golden State or something, his minutes might dwindle
Mhm.
because Golden State has their depth lineups, and
Mhm.
now you're gonna have to see him. He's gonna have to get out there and close out on some 3-point shooter, or they're gonna get him running around or moving around. He's gonna be involved in pick and rolls and stuff, and so I mean maybe that's the reason why I don't necessarily give him the respect he deserves. But you make a great point, man. We can't take for granted what he does do well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think this Utah team has reached its peak. I think
Agreed.
that it was going to take something like a Luka getting hurt, missing a couple games for them to be competitive in this series. As for Dallas, man, like I said, I really do like Jalen Brunson.
Me too.
I think that Jalen Brunson is gonna have to be their, makeshift Luka or try to be Luka-ish. You know what I'm saying? And the same with Spencer Dinwiddie though. Like we've seen Spencer Dinwiddie, have games where he can kind of carry a team. We've seen him go get 30, 35 and be that offensive option, whether it be starting or off the bench. And I think that they're gonna need, especially in this game too, they're gonna need a huge effort from both of those guys, but even probably especially even Spencer Dinwiddie. I think you made a good point about Max Kleber. If
Yep.
they can find a way to get him to knock down, maybe two or three threes, that would really stretch the floor for them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That would really force Gobert to kind of get up out of there and
Uh-huh.
kind of open things up for Brunson and for Dinwiddie to attack the bucket. Because yesterday, looking at the game yesterday, Jalen Brunson was able to get to the bucket, but he was kind of meeting Gobert there. And then I think a few of the times that he did kick it out, they got some pretty solid looks. Guys just wasn't knocking them down. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I think this game two will be interesting. I think that you're kind of gonna see this game kind of take on the same path, another tight back and forth game. But I think down the stretch,
Mhm.
Dallas not having Luka down the stretch is what's
Bummer.
gonna hurt them once again. And I think Utah is gonna win game two. And furthermore, with that being said, and I'm really saying this solely because Luka Doncic is probably gonna miss these first two games. Whoo, this is tough. This is tough, man. Because I love Luka. I love Luka.
I
I
love.
love playoff Luka.
Mhm.
I guess my thing is, even when Luka, I think they're gonna kind of rush Luka back, and even when Luka gets back, I'm just not sure if he'll be at 100% or at enough to where he can be the Luka that they need him to be.
Mhm.
And so I think they kind of rally around, win a couple games, but because of this injury to Luka, I think I might take Utah in 6.
Same here. You was reading my mind. Same here. I people know I love me some Luca.
Oh yeah.
I think Luca. And it's you're right. I feel bad for Dallas because Honestly, coming into this series, if Luka was healthy, I think they probably win this series in 5 or 6 games, maybe.
I
Um,
like I like Luka so much
mhm.
that I almost had them as like a dark horse out of the West.
That's fair.
Solely because of Luka Doncic. Like that's how much I like him, how greatly I think of him. He's gonna win an MVP one of these years
Uh,
soon.
he's gonna. I think. I've already said it. Like the way how he is, like the way how he plays offensively, he's gonna definitely win a couple MVPs. I think. I
Mhm,
said this. I think his second year. I was like,
mhm,
the way how he plays offense. If he can stay away from any type of significant injuries,
mhm.
Luka Doncic is gonna end up as a top 5 scorer of all time.
And maybe kind of do a slightly better job with his conditioning because he seems to
Mhm.
have grown a reputation to
Yeah.
come into the
Uh
season a
huh.
little out of shape and
Uh
try to play himself into shape.
huh. Yeah.
So if he can kind of do a little more work in the off season,
Mhm.
man, the sky is the limit for Luca, man.
It
And what
is.
I love about him, and Kenny will tell you, I love Nikola Jokic.
Mhm.
And I kind of put those guys in the same category from a sense of these are two guys who aren't athletic at all, but they come from overseas
Uh huh.
and they are so fundamentally sound. They know the game, they know angles, they're really smart. You know what I'm saying? They have high basketball IQs.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about both of those guys. And that's why I think that both of those guys will be successful for an extended period of time in the league because they're not dependent on athleticism. I
Yep.
think so many times, and I think that's one of the problems. Not to veer too far off topic, but I think that's one of the problems with the NBA and a lot of these GMs and these young players and the way people draft today is because nowadays everybody is drafting off of potential.
Mhm.
Back in the day, you had guys that would stay 3, maybe even 4 years. So you just knew when
Yeah.
you drafted a Tim Duncan because he had been there for 4 years. You knew he was a franchise guy. Even
Right.
going further back, you drafted Hakeem Olajuwon
You
or
knew he was a guy.
a Patrick
Patrick Ewing.
Ewing,
Uh-huh.
a Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
You knew
You were
you
getting.
had a franchise guy.
Yep.
Now everybody's one and done, or they're finding ways to just get. Everybody wants to get to the league as quick as possible,
Yep.
and now we're drafting off of potential. You know what I'm saying? Guys are going to school and not even having great freshman seasons and just jumping. You know what I'm saying? And I understand a lot of these kids. They have situations at home as far as with their parents go, and maybe they're not in the best of living situations. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that's just one of my things with the league right now is that they're drafting so much off of potential and they're not allowing guys to develop. And that's why I love Luca and Jokic so much because they've been able to develop, man.
Yeah. But definitely Utah in 6. Just based off the mere fact that I'm thinking Luka's probably gonna miss game 2. Uh Game 3, they probably get him, try to rush him back a little bit.
I think they will because I think they'll lose game 2 and they don't want to go down 3-0.
Right. So I see him coming back probably game 3, game 4 on the road at Utah. And Utah have the series lead. So it's from there. It would be Luka trying to play catch up, and I think Utah, they have a little just enough on their side. They're winning 6 games.
Bet. So we both kind of agree there, man. And hopefully, I honestly, and I'm gonna say this too before we move on.
Yeah.
I hope Luca gets back soon, and I
Mhm.
honestly want Dallas to win because if I'm just being frank, I would rather see Dallas in the second round series than Utah because
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, they're kind of a boring team to watch to me. I'm sorry, man. I like Donovan Mitchell, but they're a boring team to watch to me. I would rather see Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, man.
Right.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, we both going Utah in 6 here. Man, we've been pretty much in agreement on these things, man.
Yeah.
Let's see,
Yeah.
let's see what happens with this next one though. We gonna head back. We're gonna head back to the Eastern Conference here.
Got
All
it.
right, and we're gonna do this 4-5 matchup here. So we got Philly and Toronto. Obviously yesterday, man, Philly went out there and said, "Hey, okay, you know what I'm saying? Y'all doubting us, y'all okay? Watch this. went out there and smacked Toronto. Well, I got a few things to say about it, but I'm a throw it to you, man. What is your take before you give your prediction, man? What is your take on this series, man? And do you see the series being close?
Oh yeah, this is gonna be a close series. This is gonna be a close series for sure. I'm gonna tell you this. The Philadelphia 76ers are the team. They're the team with the most pressure in this.
Absolutely, and I think they have the player with the most pressure in James Harden.
Yep,
absolutely.
I think they probably
and coach baby and Doc Rivers
and the coach. Yeah, it's
who we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's funny. I think this team, they have a lot of pressure on them. So I'm with Philadelphia. They have more pressure than the Milwaukee Bucks. They have more pressure than the Brooklyn Nets. They have more pressure than the Phoenix Suns. They have more pressure than the Golden State Warriors. They have more pressure than anybody else in this playoffs. So I think it's make or break time for them. With this series, no Matisse Thybulle going to Toronto. So
right.
You're going to be missing him. And to me, he is their best He's their best perimeter defender.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he's
one of the better perimeter defenders in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's turned into a pretty good 3-point shooter. You know, I knew that was a developing part of his game, but he's materialized and turned himself into a respectable 3-point shooter. So you're gonna miss that 3-and-D presence of Matisse Thybulle when you go to Toronto. But with the 76ers, they had Tyrese Maxey. I really like. I liked him at Kentucky, man.
Yeah. Actually, I actually kind of seen him a little bit in high school, and I was like, okay, all right, this kid got something. He got to Kentucky. I was like, all right, okay. And then I like him too. I thought when he got to Philly, I said, man, that could be a steal right there.
For sure. And he played pretty well down the stretch of last year's postseason. I honestly think he didn't get enough minutes. In certain areas.
You can say that.
And now he had a big time showing out party last night. Last night. Where he had 38 points, and that's going to be really key for Philadelphia.
I think James Harden coming to that team is really big for him because now he doesn't necessarily have to be a point guard for them. He can play off the ball, and I think that's really helped him. Yeah,
right. And I was going to say, in terms of Philadelphia, they have missed that perimeter player. Like these last couple playoff runs, they have missed certain guys out on the perimeter where that can get their bucket, they can get their own.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say Ben Simmons, just
right.
That's another story.
And I'm gonna say this about Ben Simmons, and dating back with Brooklyn and Philadelphia. I think if Ben Simmons plays in the postseason, Ben Simmons, his limitations will be covered up and masked better than what they were in Philadelphia. That's
absolutely. I think if Brooklyn can get Ben Simmons to give them 15 to 18 solid minutes a night on the defensive end, that would pay dividends because he's a all NBA first team defensive caliber player.
He's a defensive player of the year type of guy.
Yeah, and if he can, and he's 6'10", you know what I'm saying? Yeah. If they can throw him out there for 15 to 18 minutes and spot him some time on a Jason Tatum or on a Jaylen Brown or whomever, you know what I'm saying, even moving on in the playoffs, man, that would pay dividends for them. And if he gives them something offensively, whether he's a facilitator, whether he's the point guard, whether he facilitates or whatever, if he gives them anything offensively, that's just a plus.
Right. But with Philly, their biggest thing with me is obviously Harden has to show up. Obviously, Doc Rivers has to be better than what he's been throughout the past in the postseason. But Tobias Harris, Tobias, we know
he had a pretty decent game yesterday.
He had a pretty decent game, and we know what Joel Embiid is going to do. He's having an MVP caliber year once again. James Harden, for the most part, we know what we're getting. Now we'll see as the moments get a bit tighter, and as the series goes down to the wire a little bit, like I think it will. We'll see if Harden folds, but I think Tobias Harris is a big part because we know Harden can get his, as we can see, Tyrese Maxey can get his.
Yeah.
But where does Tobias Harris fit within this mix? And if Philadelphia can figure that out in terms of Tobias Harris and his role, that'll do them wonders going forward in the playoffs. And when I look at Toronto, I think Toronto, great front office with Masai Ujiri. Nick Nurse is a championship level coach. They still got some guys that was on that championship team. They're only
another guy the Lakers are supposedly trying to persuade. Good luck with that. They throw a jab at them every chance I get.
I see. Every time. They still have a couple guys off of the championship team. Like Fred VanVleet.
I love Fred VanVleet.
I love Fred, the fake Drake. I like Fred VanVleet, but he's a really good player. Same thing with Pascal Siakam. But the thing with Toronto, they got tremendous length, and the way they're able to play defense it's very reminiscent of their championship year, where they got a
lot of interchangeable guys. A lot of 6'7", 6'8", 6'9",
Yeah, rookie Scotty Barnes can really play. I thought that was a steal for them. I was iffy about him in his development as an offensive player in terms of scoring, but he's translated really well. He fits in properly in terms of what Toronto wants. So Toronto, Philadelphia, this is not going to be an easy series. This series is going to be long and played out. I'm gonna let you take it.
I do agree with every point you made. I think I'm not sure what's going to happen moving forward with Scotty Barnes for Toronto. I know he did hurt the ankle pretty bad yesterday, so I'm almost sure he won't play in game 2. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him moving forward. With that being said, man, I actually we did our picks, in the NBA last week. I actually had Scotty Barnes as my MVP, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people probably are gonna go with Evan Mobley, out of Cleveland, and rightfully so. He had a great season, but I kind of had them neck and neck, and I just thought, Toronto had a slightly more successful season, so that's what made me go with Scotty Barnes. Kind of similar to you talking about him, though. I've followed him since high school. He went to Montbird down there in Florida, which is like an NBA player factory now.
Yep.
And then he went on to, I believe, Florida State.
And
he was there for a year, and then here to Toronto. And just like you, man, I thought he would struggle to find his way offensively.
Put the ball in the hole. Yeah,
exactly. But seeing him in the NBA, what I've noticed, I always knew he was a really good athlete.
Yep.
But he has a slightly better handle on the ball than I previously, assumed. And that's kind of helped him because he's been able to kind of use his size. He has a really good size, really broad shoulders. He's been able to use his size along with his handle and kind of face guys up, use his athleticism, get to the rim. And then he's kind of a ferocious rebounder, even on the offensive, especially like on the offensive rebounding side, So he's been able to get a lot of easy buckets like that. And I think that he's benefited from being teammates with a guy kind of similar, who had kind of a similar game as him, and Pascal Siakam. So, I do like this Toronto team. Like you said, it's a lot of 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys.
Interchangeable.
They're really interchangeable. They're able to switch everything. I've never really been big on Pascal Siakam.
Me either. But I feel like I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I feel I probably feel the same way about him in terms of like, I don't know if this guy is a first option, because last year Toronto took a step back where Kawhi obviously had left, some guys had moved on, and I was just wondering, I'm like, okay, I don't think Siakam is a 1, but he's turned the corner. So go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think he's a 1 either.
Right.
I've never been a huge fan of his. I do think this will be a tough series, but I think Fred VanVleet is gonna have to really step his game up. He kind of struggled a little bit yesterday. But he's gonna really have to be. I think Fred VanVleet is gonna have to be that guy for them in order for them to actually win this series.
Yeah.
I think the loss of Scotty Barnes is really, really gonna kind of hurt them. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe a OG Anunoby can step up, or maybe they get somebody to kind of step up. As far as with Philly, I echo your sentiments. I think that they are the team with the most pressure on them. I think they have the player with the most pressure on them and on him and James Harden, and probably the coach with the most pressure on him in Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
I think that Daryl Morey, who's their guy now, their GM now. Obviously, James Harden is his guy, dating back to their Houston days, and so I think that now is the time. It's put up or shut up. You know what I'm saying? We seen you guys. I believe, were they not the number 1 seed last year?
They were the number 1 seed last year, and
they lost in the second round, 7 games to Atlanta. So you know what I'm saying. Now this has to be the season for them. Like I feel like it's really boom or bust for them. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Now they have who they deem to be that second guy who can really just kind of create on his own. You know what I'm saying? They think it's an upgrade over Ben Simmons, and from an offensive standpoint, I would say it's an upgrade from over Ben Simmons.
Definitely.
But I don't know. For me, man, maybe it's just me. James Harden, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that they're calling the game a little differently this year. They made it a priority coming into this season to call the game a little differently this year and not give so many of those little ticky-tack fouls, or if it's the fact that James Harden never really quite got 100% healthy from the hamstring injury last year. But for me, James Harden just isn't the same. Like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like it's something missing with him. You know what I'm saying? We used to him going out. I don't remember the last time he's had like a 40-point, 50-point triple-double.
Yeah.
And at one stage, he was just getting them like it was nobody's business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Tyronn Lue made a statement about him. You know what I'm saying? He said, you know what I'm saying, James Harden really couldn't score if he couldn't get to the free throw line. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, man. I hate to say that's true, but I just feel like he's not having the same impact on the game that he did, in Houston, and even maybe like that first month or so last year in Brooklyn. Because for a little while, people said, he might have been the MVP, when Durant was out and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, since he's hurt himself last year, he hasn't quite been the same James Harden to me. And that kind of alarms me when it comes to this team. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give my pick, though. I think that the Scotty Barnes injury really, really, really kind of hurts Toronto. With that being said, I would have had this a much tougher series if Toronto was completely healthy. But with that being said, I think Philly wins this series in 5. I'm going to go Philly in 5. I think Toronto, I'll give Toronto game 2. I think Toronto goes out there, wins game 2, you know what I'm saying, really get the skepticism up about game 3 going to Toronto. And I think Philly goes into Toronto with a little chip on their shoulder and they win both games. They come home, win game 5.
Okay, I like that. The Scotty Barnes, prior to the Scotty Barnes injury, I thought Philly wins in 7. I thought this had the potential to be a really long series. I think the injury kind of derails the length of the series, but I'm gonna still go one less game. I'm gonna say Philly in 6.
Okay.
You bring up.
So you give Toronto 2 games.
I'm giving Toronto 2 games. Maybe they split. One here in game 2, and then probably win back one up in Toronto in the 6th. Okay. But I'm thinking 6 games, Philadelphia. You bring up an interesting point with Harden. Lastly, before we move on, I think a combination of both, like him and the injury, and also the officiating has changed. So him getting to the free throw line, like when he was averaging 30, 33 points, 36 points a game, he was getting to the free throw line 10 plus. It was like he had led the league in like free throw attempts, like like 8 years straight. And
Yep.
he would just get there 12, 13 times a game. Well, if you're doing that at such a high clip and you're averaging 30, 13 to 15 of your points are coming from the free throw line, and you just got to make 7 additional field goals, and you had 30. So that was that, you know, that's how it worked a little bit. But I think it's a combination of both him not being completely healthy, and the officiating is a bit different. And we know in the postseason, the officiating, you know,
they kind of hold tight. Yeah, they swallow the whistle. You know what I'm saying? So definitely officiated differently. And I think that's in James Harden past in some instances. I think that's been the case. And that's another thing. That's another reason why pressure's on him, because we've seen his struggles in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? We seen him in a series, in a closeout game against San Antonio, go out there and go 3 for 13 or something like that. We've seen them in a game 7. Him and the whole Houston Rockets team missed 28 straight 3-point attempts, 27 straight, you know what I'm saying, 3-point attempts. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think, you know, and then we seen him last year. Granted, he might have been, he probably was hurt just trying to tough it out. But, you know, we seen him last year not necessarily be 100%, and that team not reach the heights that we thought they would.
Right.
So, I mean, the pressure's on for him, and we'll see. But I think we both agree here. You got Philly in 6. I got Philly in 5. Either way, Philly wins and moves on. All right, last series of the night. Going back out west. I think this is a really fun series. I think this would be a really fun series to watch.
I think so too.
Golden State and Denver. I think Golden State's the favorite here. As I did mention, I love Nikola Jokic. But at this point in time, especially looking at game 1 of this series yesterday, I just think at this point in time, they just don't got enough, you know what I'm saying, clips in the gun, you know what I'm saying? So enough bullets in the clips, should I say. So what do you think about this series, man? And how can Denver make this a competitive series?
Well, I think for Denver, Nikola Jokic, he's gonna have to continue his MVP level of play. You're gonna need.
He was my MVP this year. I say he goes back to back.
Okay. I think guys like Aaron Gordon is gonna have to step up tremendously for them. I think Will the Thrill Barton. I think he's gonna have to definitely play a huge role in them trying to keep this as a competitive series. But honestly, Denver, and they've had some trouble a little bit on defense. But honestly, I think Golden State wins this series. It kind of reminds me of like a little bit of just the Milwaukee series, where I feel like not necessarily, I don't think it's gonna be that dominant of a performance, because I think Denver have enough. And Nikola Jokic,
the games will be respectable.
But the games will be respectable, but I just think Golden State will have a bit too much. Curry's coming back off his injury, but Curry doesn't necessarily have to be like at 100% tip-top shape in order for Golden State to win this series,
especially with the ascendance of Jordan Poole.
I think so. It's interesting you say that. I had Jordan Poole's trainer on my podcast. Because Poole, Jordan Poole's trainer is Jalen Green's trainer. Shout out to Mark Edwards. Yeah, okay. And we were talking about Jalen Green, but in his talking about Jalen Green, we also have discussed him and his workouts and so forth with Jordan Poole and the improvement he's seeing. And he told me that Jordan Poole was going to be a guy that's going to be playing for a max contract. And some people probably wouldn't believe it. And he told me this during the summer before the season started. And you look up, Jordan Poole's having a phenomenal year, and he looks like an emerging
man
in this league.
I mean, Golden State might have some decisions to make pretty soon.
Pretty soon. And his range has improved, and that was really the big thing. Like his range that his trainer talked about, like his range has improved. And in terms of Golden State and their philosophy and what they're looking for offensively, they're asking him to shoot the 3. They're not going to ask him to shoot mid-range jumpers. He's a pretty good mid-range shooter, but they're asking him to shoot the three, and he's improved on that. So shout out to Mark Edwards on that. But Jordan Poole and his emergence has been really big. Obviously, Klay Thompson rounding into form a little bit. This last stretch of the season, had some big games, had some explosive games.
Yeah, I think they were saying he averaged about 31 a game the last 3 games of the season.
Yeah, so that was
starting to get his footing under him.
Yeah, that was really big, and not that Klay lacks confidence, but like that was pretty big for him to, without Steph, him being able to be like the first option, the flamethrower that he is, get back out there, and then Draymond coming back. So I think the Warriors, and looking at this series, and then looking at future going in deeper into the playoffs, because Steph is going to be Steph, right?
Right.
I think with the combination of Klay Thompson getting better and rounding into shape, and Jordan Poole and his emergence, and even Andrew Wiggins, if we get the Andrew Wiggins and the Jordan Poole that we saw the first half of the season, where people were saying the Golden State Warriors look like they're going to be going back to the finals, if we can get that mix with Klay Thompson rounding into the form, this Golden State Warrior team will be very, very, very difficult for anybody to beat. So I think the Golden State Warriors, I think they win this series, and I think they win this series in 5. I think all 5 games are going to be pretty respectable and close, but I think Poole, with the emergence of Poole, Klay Thompson, obviously Steph, I don't got to even talk about much with him, but those guys, the other guys, I think the key guys are the young guys, the young core, the Scotto Anderson, Otto Porter. Those are going to be the guys that I think come up big, and they're gonna get ready and for a deep playoff run by beating Denver in 5 games conventionally.
Yeah, man. Once again, Kenny will tell you, I love Jokic. I've always been a fan of this Denver team when healthy.
Yep.
Jamal Murray not being there, and then also Michael Porter Jr. not being there. Although there are rumors that he may try to sneak back sometime during the series. I don't know about that, but we'll see what happens. But those 2 guys not being there is really, really, really detrimental to this Denver team, And for me, I think that's kind of what kind of solidifies Jokic being the MVP for me, is the fact that he's been doing this for almost 2 years now without Jamal Murray. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I think if those guys were there and healthy, this would be a much, much, much tighter series here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think outside of Jokic, as far as Denver goes, if they're going to stand a chance in this series, like you said, outside of Jokic, I think Aaron Gordon is going to have to step his game up. Will Barton, and then another name or 2 names. They're not brothers, but I'm just going to say one of the Green brothers, you know what I'm saying? Jermichael or Jeff. One of those guys have to step up, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I remember last year when Jeff Green was with Brooklyn, every now and again you'll see him, you look up, he done had a huge game. He done had, 19, 20, 21 points. Yeah. He had to, I believe the game, I believe that was game 5 when Durant had the 50. Jeff Green had like 21 or 22. He had like 5 or 6 threes that game. You know what I'm saying? So they could use Jeff Green having one of those type of throwback games, but you haven't heard much from him this season. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they're gonna need namely Aaron Gordon, Will Barton. Those guys really gonna have to kind of step up and just have huge games on both ends of the floor. You know what I'm saying? Because they're gonna have to really stick some defense as well in order for them to really have a chance in this series. As far as Golden State, man, if Golden State is 100% healthy, they'll be in the Western Conference Finals against the Phoenix Suns.
Absolutely.
And that's probably a 7-game series.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if Golden State came out of the West if they're healthy.
I wouldn't be surprised either. They were my pick to start the season off, to come out the West.
They have a new death lineup, kind of, so to speak, because now they can kind of slip Jordan Poole in, as that third, and Steph Curry healthy, Klay Thompson, and then Jordan Poole. I'm sorry, those are three phenomenal shooters. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Draymond Green kind of doing the dirty work and setting it up and everything. And then, I think they've been kind of saving Andre Iguodala. So now they can go ahead and slip Iggy back in there, man. And I mean, hey, look out, man. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
this team, if they're healthy, I really truly believe that they'll be meeting the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals. So I'm kind of with you. I think Jokic gets Denver a game.
Me too.
So I probably maybe I don't know, either game 2 or game 3, Jokic probably gets them a game. But I think ultimately, A, because they won game 1, and B, because of the way Jordan Poole has ascended, they're gonna really be able to kind of take it slow, bringing Steph back and getting them back, fully acclimated. But I think as the series goes on, he's gonna get better and better and more confident, and you'll see his minutes increase. And then it's just gonna be lights out for Denver, man. So, but yeah, man, look out for this Golden State team. If healthy, if they can stay completely healthy, I think that they'll meet the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals. So real quick, before we get out of here, I'm gonna ask you real quick. I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Real quick, man. Who do you see meeting in the finals? And then if you can, right now, who's your eventual NBA champion?
Out east, right now, I'm gonna say the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Bucks, they repeat as Eastern Conference champions, and I think the Golden State Warriors, they get back to the NBA Finals, and I think the Golden State Warriors win the NBA Finals. That was my pick, from the start of the season. That was my pick after the first month. So I'm gonna stick with that. Take integrity. And I'm gonna stick with, I'm gonna stick with Golden State winning the Western Conference. I agree with you. I think they meet up with Phoenix. Phoenix puts up a good fight. I think Golden State win in 7, and the Milwaukee Bucks get to the finals. And I think the Golden State Warriors, they capture their title.
Crazy enough, great minds do think alike. As of right now, I have the exact same finals matchup. However, I have a slightly different outcome. I think Milwaukee wins it though. I have a slightly different outcome. I think Milwaukee wins it. Draymond Green tries a lot of his tactics or whatever, but I think ultimately Giannis is just gonna impose his will. They'll be a little too physical for Golden State. And as of right now, I'd say Milwaukee wins it, man. But that about does it for the day, man. Once again, Mr. Kit, man, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on. And right now, I just want to give you the opportunity to A, shout out any of your social media handles, and B, go ahead and plug for your podcast. As you mentioned, you have your own podcast, man. So go ahead. This is your time, man. Plug yourself. Do the thing.
Okay. Well, thank you. Greatly appreciate you having me on. Like I said, I have my own sports podcast. I've been doing for almost 3 years now. So you can go check that out. It's called the Isaiah Kid Podcast. It's spelled just like my name, the Isaiah Kid Podcast. You can find it on.
That's it at the bottom, right? It's spelled right at the bottom.
Right.
Okay, so y'all see that, man. That's how you spell it right there.
Right there. So you can find it literally any DSP or any streaming platform, podcasting platform that you use to listen to any of a podcast. You can find my podcast there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, I don't know, Google, like anywhere you go, you can find my podcast. So greatly appreciate it. Also follow my Instagram, Isaiah Kid Pod. So you can find me there. I'm also on Twitter, Isaiah Kid Pod. Follow those, go check me out. And like I said, my podcast is called the Isaiah Kid Podcast. I have similar content and conversations and debates and so forth, and guests that come on, and I do it 2 times a week. I try to, but it was a pleasure having you, for me to be back on the Rooted in Sports podcast once again.
Oh man, thank you, man. Once again, man, you already know Rooted in Sports right there on YouTube. Like this video, like and subscribe. We also got the at Rooted in Sports Instagram page, Rooted in Sports on Twitter, man. So definitely go ahead and add us and follow us. Once again, like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Y'all like and subscribe Kenny's podcast, the Break Room Breakdown, man. The kid's he's doing some awesome things there, man, and the variety of guests that he has on is just it's amazing to me, man. He really covers all sports and all different so y'all go ahead, make sure y'all like and subscribe that as well, the Break Room Breakdown. And yeah, man, that's it, man. Love everybody for tuning in. God bless. Once again, thank you again, Mr. Kit. He's almost like the third host, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Swan Dunn, King Tiberius, and goddamn it, we got to come up with a nickname for you, man.
Hey,
Pit Cat. Oh no.
we can work on it. We can work on it for sure.
Word. But once again, man, thank you for coming on. And yeah, that's it, man. Much love. God bless. And we're gonna get up out of here. Till next time. See y'all same time. No, 7 p.m. next Sunday. Y'all check us out, man. Much love.